The full, detailed story of Amelia Earhart, her final flight, and the enduring mystery of her disappearance. The pioneering spirit. Who was Amelia Earhart? Before her disappearance, Amelia Earhart was already a global icon, a symbol of courage, determination, and the limitless potential of women. Early life. Born in 1897 in Atchison, Kansas, Amelia was an adventurous and unconventional child. She kept a scrapbook of newspaper clippings about women who succeeded in male-dominated fields. First flight. Her first airplane ride in 1920 was transformative. By the time I had got 200 or 300 feet off the ground, she said, I knew I had to fly. Rising fame. In 1928, she became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic as a passenger, though she described herself as a sack of potatoes. While she didn't pilot the plane, the feat made her an instant celebrity. Record breaker. She wasn't content with just fame. She set numerous aviation records. First woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, 1932. First person to fly solo from Hawaii to the US mainland, 1935. Speed and altitude records. She used her fame to advocate for commercial air travel, women's rights, and the future of aviation. The final challenge, the world flight. By 1937, Earhart sought the last great aviation prize, a circumnavigational flight around the globe at or near the equator. It was an audacious, dangerous plan for a twin-engine Lockheed Electra 10E. The plane. The Lockheed Electra was a capable aircraft, but it was new technology. It had been modified with extra fuel tanks for the long over-water stretches, which affected its weight and balance. The crew, Amelia Earhart, pilot and commander, Frederick J. Noonan, her navigator, a supremely experienced former Pan Am navigator. He was an expert in celestial navigation and over-water flight. However, rumors of his drinking problems have persisted, though never conclusively proven to have affected the flight. The original plan was to fly east to west. After a crash on takeoff in Hawaii, the plane was repaired and the route was reversed to west to east, deemed somewhat easier due to prevailing winds. The flight, triumph and growing peril. The journey began on June 1, 1937 from Miami, Florida. For over a month, Earhart and Noonan flew over 22,000 miles, making stops in South America, Africa, India, and Southeast Asia. Their progress was front-page news worldwide. By July 2nd, they had reached Lae, New Guinea. They had completed roughly 80% of the journey. The next leg was the most daunting, 2,556 miles, 4,113 kilometers, over the open Pacific Ocean to Howland Island. Howland Island. This was the problem. Howland was a tiny sliver of land, barely 2 miles long and half a mile wide. It was like finding a needle in a haystack from the air. Its location made precise celestial navigation crucial. The setup. The U.S. Coast Guard cutter USCGC Itasca was stationed off Howland Island. Its job was to maintain radio contact with Earhart and guide her in using radio direction finding and smoke signals. The plan was for Earhart to transmit on her frequency, so the Itasca could take a bearing and guide her. She could also use their transmissions to find a line of position to the ship. July 2, 1937, the day of disappearance. Takeoff. Earhart and Noonan took off from Lae at 000 GMT, 10:00 a.m. local time, heavily fueled for the long journey. The flight. The flight was mostly routine, but issues began hours in. Radio problems. Earhart's Electra had a 50-watt transmitter, while the Itasca had a powerful 500-watt transmitter. Her messages could be heard by them, but she often could not hear theirs. She was also operating on a frequency, 3105 kHz, that was better for voice, while the Itasca was better at transmitting Morse code. This led to critical miscommunication. Final messages, 3:45 a.m. GMT, cloudy and overcast. 6:14 a.m. GMT, the ship hears. We must be on you, but cannot see you. Gas is running low. Been unable to reach you by radio. We are flying at 1,000 feet. 6:45 a.m. GMT. We are running north and south. This suggests they believed they had reached the Howland latitude and were searching along a north-south line. 7:42 a.m. GMT, the last confirmed message. We are on the line of position 157-337. We are running on line north and south. This line would have run through Howland Island. She also stated she was listening for the Itasca couldn't hear them. 8:43 a.m. GMT. A final, broken, desperate transmission is heard. "We are on you but cannot see you. Gas is running low." And then silence. The Itasca immediately began a smokescreen, but it was useless. Earhart and Noonan were nowhere to be seen. They had vanished. The search and the enduring mystery. The U.S. Navy launched the most extensive and expensive naval search in history up to that time, covering over 250,000 square miles of ocean. On July 19, 1937, the search was officially called off. No wreckage of the plane or bodies were ever found. This vacuum of evidence gave rise to decades of theories. 1. The crash and sink theory, most widely accepted. This theory posits that due to navigational errors, deteriorating weather, and fuel exhaustion, Earhart and Noonan simply missed Howland Island. They flew past it, eventually ran out of fuel, and crashed into the vast open ocean. The plane would have sunk quickly into the immense depths of the Pacific, leaving no trace. This is the official U.S. government position, the Gardner Island Nikumaroro hypothesis. This is the most popular alternative theory, championed by the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, TIGAR. The theory: they believe Earhart and Noonan, lost and low on fuel, landed the Electra on a flat reef at Gardner Island, now Nikumaroro, then a remote, uninhabited British territory. The evidence: radio signals heard days after the disappearance were alleged to be distress calls from them. A 1940 British colonial officer reported finding 13 human bones, a woman's shoe, and a sextant box on the island. The bones were later lost, but modern analysis of the measurements suggests they were likely a woman of European descent. TIGAR expeditions have found artifacts, pieces of plexiglass consistent with an Electra window, a woman's compact, and a jar of freckle cream. Earhart was known to dislike her freckles. The outcome: the theory suggests they died as castaways on the island. While compelling, no definitive smoking gun like a plane wreckage or serial number has been found. The Japanese capture theory, conspiracy speculation. A sensational theory suggests Earhart and Noonan were captured by the Japanese military. The theory: they were secretly on a spying mission for the U.S. government to survey Japanese-mandated islands in the Pacific. They were shot down, captured, and executed or died in captivity. The evidence: a photo from the Marshall Islands allegedly showing Earhart and Noonan in captivity. This was later debunked as being from before 1937. Stories from native islanders who claimed to see a white woman and man captured. The problem: no credible, verifiable evidence from U.S. or Japanese archives has ever been found to support this. It is largely dismissed by historians. Other theories. Other less credible theories include returning to the U.S. under an alias, being captured by space aliens, or being shot down and covered up. These lack any credible evidence. While the mystery of her disappearance captivates the public, Amelia Earhart's true legacy is her life. A symbol. She broke barriers for women in aviation and all fields, proving that courage and ambition are not gendered traits. An inspiration. Her famous words: "The most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity," continue to inspire. An innovator. She co-founded the 99s, an international organization for female pilots that still exists today. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan remains one of the 20th century's greatest unsolved mysteries. It was likely a tragic accident born from the immense risks of early long-distance aviation, but the search for answers continues, a testament to the enduring power of her story. A story not just of how she died, but of how she truly lived. Fearlessly, at the edge of what was possible.